And we are live again. This is Sunny, and today we will explore the question of is it possible for women to stop years or even decades of self hate in just 2 days? Is it possible for women to stop years or decades of self hate in just 2 days? The short answer no and yes. I will elaborate more on this towards the end of this live session. So stick around till the end and find out the answer for yourself. So let's begin with what does self hate even look like when you are seeing it in yourself as a woman? Now, this one single subject, it has such a vast set of paradigms that I could not possibly address all of them in this tiny live session with you. But let me just talk about a few things that I have personally seen in my own experience talking and working with different kinds of women. So, one is violence. Let me just go right off the bat on this one, violence. Now, when we talk about violence and women, the usual perception is that it may be coming from a partner or someone, a third party. Well, that is true. There is also another aspect of violence which can be self inflicted. For example, I was once working with a woman who was talking about how she was used to inflicting herself with pain, with violence, um, just habitually. She didn't know why she was doing that. She would just take sharp objects and start cutting herself on her wrists, on her arms. Um, and she said, Sunny, I do not know why I was doing that, but all I can say is that it just gave me some relief. Now, that word is important, relief, and we will come back to that as we move on in this subject. So, one is violence, physical form. The second one, of course, as I said earlier, it could be from another person, it could be from your spouse or partner. Um, that again, quite surprisingly, is linked with self hate. Sounds strange, but it is true. Now, you may be a person who may not have been raised in an environment of physical violence, but physical violence does not have to be um, always conditioned through experiencing physical violence. It can be conditioned through violent words throughout your childhood, so much so that as you grow up, you're okay with being physically violated as well. So that's also one possibility that happens in relationships. But at the heart of it is self-hate. Self-hate could also lead to negative body image, just in general, hating the way you look, hating the way you feel, hating the way you sound, just not liking yourself or being disgusted with yourself. That's again a sign of self-hate. So if you have these things, that indicates to certain degree of self-hate. Um, this might sound strange to you, but if you find these things, which I'm going to talk about now, in you as a pattern, as a habit, then that could also indicate that there is a possible area of self-hate, and this is addictions. Yeah. Now, what does addiction have to do with self-hate? Well, you could be having addiction to shopping. You could be having addiction to social media, to unhealthy eating patterns, to lethargy, to name your addiction, whatever that is. Now, why does addiction indicate towards self hate? Because we'll talk about the real problem. Remember how I said in my last session as well that beneath what we see, sorry, beneath any problem, right? Beneath anything that is presented to us, there is something beneath that. There is something underneath the whole issue. Self hate, what is, if you peel off the layers and you go beneath that, it is all about pain. There's a lot of pain, and that is the reason why there is self hate. Now, addictions is just a diversion. People try to distract themselves away from that pain through all of these different things. So think of them like painkillers. Like they give you temporary relief, but then you have to keep doing it again and again because the relief does not last for too long, but the issue still remains, right? So try this for yourself. Whatever your addiction is, whatever your form of self hate is, just try stopping it for some time. It might take a lot of willpower, but if you were to say, let's say, if you're addicted to eating too much food, um, and if you stop that for some time, let's say for a day, if you really control that, you might experience that pain which you've been trying to distract yourself from. And mind you, this can be quite frustrating because to experience pain but not know what is beneath that and why that pain exists can be quite frustrating. And I can understand that very well. Having been there myself, I do understand that part. I'll give you an example of another fellow coach who was telling me that before she worked on herself and got better, there was a time when she spent in 1 year 5 lakh rupees, that's 500,000 rupees, on just one food based app called Swiggy in just 1 year. And she put on more than 100 kilos. So when I investigated further, what we came to know is that there was pain, right? She was dealing with her own relationships and the problem that she was facing in a relationship with food, right? You see how that works, and that pain again, it resurfaces, like I said. So anyway, so when you come face to face with this pain, it can be quite frustrating. Then the question is, why does it hurt so much? And the only way to find that is going beneath that pain, and that is the root cause. And the root cause is generally found in the other than conscious part of your mind, the unconscious mind. So it can be frustrating because it's just not possible to consciously become aware of that root. We have to go into different modalities to get there. Now, what is the problem of keeping this self hate issue on for some more years? If you've been going through for many years and if you keep it on for many years, what could it do for you? Of course, you have your addictions. The pain does not go away. The temporary relief that you get only remains temporary. And you have to keep adding more and more and more ways of relieving yourself just to handle that pain. Now, what it does for your relationships is that you would not be able to be authentic in your relationships with yourself or with others. And that's quite a painful place to be in. Not to mention all the other problems that can come with your health, with your mental health, so on and so forth. Now, coming back to the question of this live session, can women get over the self hate, stop the self hate in just 2 days? So the answer I gave first was no. And I said no because if you go with the conventional way of therapy, it can take anywhere on average up to about 7 years, provided you stick to the therapy through the entire painful methods of therapy for all of those 7 years. It could take more, it can take up to 10 years. I've spoken to people who've been with different therapists for 3 years, 5 years, 10 years. They feel better, but the issue still remains. And I said yes at the beginning of the call because I do not use conventional therapy. I use very unconventional methods, but it takes 2 days. And the reason that is because I do not take the route of pain, I take the route of pleasure. So, well, you may end up having tears, but those are not tears of pain, but tears of ecstasy, perhaps, but not of pain. Let me give you an example as to how this works. Now, let's say if you have a computer which has been running an operating system for last 10 to 12 years. Now, would you need 10 to 12 years in order to upgrade that operating system? Or would a system engineer who's really good at his job can just come and do that upgradation in a matter of few minutes? You don't need 10 years to upgrade an operating system, even if you have been running the operating system for your entire life. So there are these programs, there are these root causes beneath the pain which is causing self-hate. Maybe it has been plaguing you for your entire life, but you shouldn't have to spend 7 to 10 years to take care of that. 2 days are more than enough. So if what I'm saying makes sense to you, okay, if it resonates with you at any point, feel free to come back to me, drop a comment or message me directly, and feel free to share this message with someone who might find this useful. Thanks so much for listening and take care. God bless you.